This next series, the Lakers and the Timberwolves, I don't know.
5 games?
This is tough. I think that's disrespectful to the Timberwolves.
I mean,
Really?
They beat Minnesota last year in 5. Dallas, that is.
I think
I don't know.
I think there's a better chance that the Lakers win in 5 than Timberwolves win the series at all.
I don't think.
Yo, bro, I think the Lakers might smoke them.
No. I disagree. I don't think,
good.
number one, the Mavericks team last year to make the finals was awesome overall. And I don't think the Lakers have that type of depth on their team currently. I
Or
think
rim
that's the biggest
protection.
difference.
That's the difference.
They'll have the offense, though.
I think Minnesota is kind of
defense
getting a little bit
is
slept
separate.
on. This has been the toughest series for me to predict because the Lakers don't have an answer for Anthony Edwards. And I know on the other side,
They don't have an answer for Luka.
I understand. They definitely have an answer for Reeves. You was about to name Reeves. I know you was about to name Reeves.
Well, I
They
mean,
have an
if
answer
he's
for
the
Reeves.
third guy, who are you going to put on him?
Nikhil,
Anthony Edwards.
Jalen Clark.
Who?
Anthony Edwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
On Reeves?
Yeah, I'm fine
Nikhil,
with that. I'm
Jalen
fine with that. Like,
I'm just looking at all the data points for Minnesota are pretty phenomenal. And for one, they started the season 8-10. Everybody thought the sky was falling. Then since then, they went 41-23, the 5th best record in the NBA.
Yep.
And in that span, they were top 6 in offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. Their best offense and the best offensive rating lineup in the NBA has been Dante DiVincenzo, Edwards, Alexander Walker, Randall, and Naz Reid. I think the Timberwolves have a size advantage in this series by having Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle and Naz Reid, and the Lakers not having any viable center option outside of Jackson Hayes. That's a real advantage for the Timberwolves. They probably will win the rebounding battle. This is also a better three-point shooting team. On the season, they have been one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. They generate a lot of threes as well. They hit them at a high clip, and they have a ton of lineup versatility. If the Gobert lineup isn't working, let's go Naz Reid, let's go 5 out, let's go Julius Randle, dictating offense and generating more catch-and-shoot opportunities for our players. I think the Timberwolves have a lot of answers, not only to attack the Lakers offensively, but defensively. Yes, Jaden McDaniels cannot guard Luka. I don't think anybody can guard Luka.
Not anybody.
He's just missing. And you know what's funny? That the Al Horford and Rudy Gobert comparison is interesting to me because Luka generated a lot of open shots against Al Horford in the finals, but he shot 23% against them. He just didn't make his shots.
What about this regular season game? Did he just miss too?
Yeah, I think so. Gobert,
If he just misses against Boston,
if you're taking a step back on big,
when you look at the contest that Gobert had against Luka, I mean, you can't ask for anything better. Like, they were great contests.
But I asked you, Joel,
just were made shots.
When Luka was playing against Al Horford, would you not argue or would you not agree that a lot of the shots he were taking against Al Horford were tough, bad shots?
I feel like Al Horford
Same thing with Gobert.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if Al Horford is forcing him into a bad shot, that's a good job on Al Horford.
I know, but
like, he's taking step back threes on
that's the point I'm trying to make about Gobert is that I think Gobert, those shots you kind of live with. It's just
sure.
Luka's.
It just seems like he makes them.
He's going to hit them against almost anybody. So that's where you don't really have an answer against that. But Jaden McDaniels, Alexander Walker, Jalen Clark,
too small.
Anthony Edwards, Dante DiVincenzo. I think they have a ton of defenders on the perimeter that you can switch up and vary the matchups. Maybe Jalen Clark or Alexander Walker are guarding Luka, and you have Jaden on LeBron, or you have Jaden on Austin Reeves. Like, you probably move the pieces on the chessboard a little bit to just try to dictate matchups and live with certain things, So I'm interested to see what Minnesota is willing to live with. Are we going to have our best defender on Luka that we know is a non-factor, or do we have our best defender on Reeves and take him out, and then we kind of hone in on Luka with just letting him go one-on-one and just staying home on shooters? So I think another thing that the Lakers don't have in this series that Luka had in that series in the conference finals was a premier lob threat that can play for 48 minutes. Jackson Hayes at most is playing 20 minutes, 20 to 25 minutes.
And Vano's not a lob threat.
Yeah, the Mavericks had Gafford and they had Derek Lively. When you're in the pick and roll and Luka's putting his defender in jail on his back and he's forcing Gobert to make a decision to step up on the floater or contest the lob, that's something you don't have to worry about in these non-Jackson Hayes minutes lineup. So I think that's another thing that the Lakers don't have that Mavericks team did have. I think this is going to be a 7-game series. I have the Lakers in 7 because of the clutch time offense. I think Minnesota is amazing, but the Lakers have 3 players who can create nice great looks in the clutch. Yeah. And I think that's the difference in this series. But when you go top to bottom and all the things that these teams do well, Minnesota does a lot of them at the same level, if not a higher level. I just think the high leverage moments is when this series is going to be decided.
Does this series pull out heartstrings for you a little bit?
It does, because I think Minnesota, if they win, I would not be shocked. I think they have a legitimate chance.
I got the Lakers. I didn't think too much about this series. Minnesota is a tough team, but I just think of Minnesota and I look at the Lakers matchups, and I think Minnesota is just too small, specifically with guarding LeBron, with guarding Luka. Yeah. You know, I think you have guys like Jaden, you have guys like Ant, you have guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They're just too small for those type of guys like LeBron and Luka. Too physical. They're just not they're not big enough physically to guard those two guys. And like you mentioned, LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, they're going to be able to generate an efficient offense, especially in the pick and roll where you're going to probably switch most of your thing. And then Julius Randle, like, what are you getting out of him? You know, theoretically, this is probably a matchup he should kill in.
What are we getting out of him?
Exactly. You have no idea. And
I have a good feeling about Randle.
You can have a good feeling.
It can only go up. It can't go down. If it went down, he would not.
That's the thing. It literally could go down. Like, you literally don't know.
Do you know that
unplayable if it goes down?
Do you know that this has been obviously this has been Randle's first season. Him and Anthony Edwards have more games where they've both had 30-point games than Edwards had with Cat. Like, I think this fit with Edwards might be a bit better offensively just because Randle can take pressure off of him in making decisions. He generates so many open three-point shots.
That's what Randle does best.
And Julius Randle's a good player. I just look at, like, the Lakers defense is definitely something I'm skeptic about. You know, you have Jackson Hayes at the 5. You have a lot of cool wing defenders, but it's not a defense that puts fear in anybody's heart, I feel like. But offensively, I mean, like you mentioned, Minnesota in the clutch is just not good. You know, they just don't generate a good quality offense in the clutch. Even, it's a lot of bad shots, a lot of, bad attempts, a lot of just miscommunication, a lot of not understanding, spacing and not understanding, how much time you have on the shot clock and just generating a good shot. With the Lakers, you have two of the best guys to do that in LeBron and Luka. And then you have Austin Reeves, who's playing at a high level. I just trust this offense way more with the Lakers, and I don't think Minnesota can guard this offense at all. I don't, like, Jalen Clark is a guy who's a good defender. How much minutes is he going to get in the series? How deep are they going to go into their rotation? Are they going to be able to take advantage of Julius Randle? Like you mentioned, Rudy Gobert and stuff like that. Naz Reid, I think he's a really good defender. I think he'll probably be a guy that's going to get a lot of minutes at the 5 this series. But in terms of Jaden McDaniels, this is a guy who struggled last year against Luka in the playoffs. A guy who struggled, struggled immensely. And this is he hasn't gotten bigger. Luka hasn't gotten smaller. So and then you have
Luka might get bigger.
You know what I'm saying? And then LeBron.
That was a subliminal
that was nuts.
That's a big guy. That's
and then you got LeBron James. Like LeBron James is also still a big
dude. But McDaniels has guarded LeBron very well.
Well, he's gonna have to guard Luka. They're not putting anybody else on Luka.
I think I would put McDaniels on LeBron.
Who's guarding Luka?
I would put.
What?
It's gonna have
you can't put it on.
I would put somebody else. I don't know. I don't know.
Mike Conley?
When you start off the game, I think you have to have McDaniels. You have to. When you have different lineups,
you can't.
Alexander Walker, I would like better.
You can't put Ant on any of those two guys. You need all his energy exerted for that offense.
He could, but I think you could also see Anthony Edwards just be like, "I'm taking Reeves out this series."
Oh, Reeves! I was talking about LeBron and Luka. I know. Yeah, I'm
saying if Anthony Edwards steps up in that way, and then they just kind of focus on LeBron and Luka, those other defenders, I think they match up well. Like, this series could be a series where Mike Conley just doesn't play all that much. After game 1, we probably realized,
replace him with a bigger defender.
And then you replace him with Jalen Clark in the lineup.
Dante.
It's really all dependent on the mismatch because you have guys like Dante, too small. Luka and LeBron.
Still 6'5".
He's 6'4". Luka and LeBron, bigger guys like they can take advantage of him, take advantage of Rudy. You did that to me.
Alexander Walker is 6'5".
6'5", too small, too skinny.
Luka's 6'6".
Luka's 6'7".
He's 6'6".
6'7".
I promise you he's 6'6".
Stop.
Search it up. I promise you.
We can search it up, but we have eyes.
He plays like he's 6'8".
Dude, he's taller. He's taller than Jaylen Brown.
All I'm saying is that
like 6'7".
I thought
Jay McDaniel's like 6'10". He, don't really
I thought Luka was 6'7", 6'8", but then I looked at it. I'm like, he's 6'6".
Okay, Joel, they lie on Google. Like, that.
But it's on NBA.com.
NBA.com is what's KD height on NBA.com?
Every source has Luka listed as that.
What's KD height on NBA.com?
He probably is like 6'9".
That's cat as fuck. KD hasn't been 6'9".
He's 6'11"
since like 17.
Okay,
That's
how tall is Luka?
Basketball reference makes more sense.
How tall is Luka on on Basketball Reference?
6'6".
6'6". Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't feel
I
like
don't really
it.
care what Luka's height is. They're all too small. We saw
they are
last
too
year they're
small.
too
But
small.
I'm just saying, it's like they're similar heights. I just think the situational offense is where I sour on Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I think this series, for the majority of it, we could be like, okay, Minnesota looks like they're getting the better of them.
Yeah.
And in the conference finals that ended in 5 games, game 1, 3-point game.
Yep.
Ant and Cat didn't play well. Game 2, 1-point game. Ant and Cat didn't play well. So that series was a 5-game series, but the first 2 games of that series were very close and could have went either way. It was just situational basketball. And I think if the series does end in 5, it is probably going to be very close game up to the end, and Minnesota just doesn't perform in the clutch. But I think that they are going to push the Lakers. I think they have so much better athletes out there on the floor, and the Lakers defense is pretty vulnerable. I know they had a stretch where they looked amazing on defense, but their defense is so hell-bent on scrambling and doing things perfectly, and one false rotation leads to open shots, and I just don't think that they have the athletes to keep up with Anthony Edwards on the perimeter, and I think the size of Minnesota is going to bother them, especially in the front court.
Yeah, Minnesota is not your typical 6 seed. They're one of only a few teams this year to be top 10 offensive rating, top 10 defensive rating, and top 5 in net rating. Now I'm going with the Lakers in this matchup in 7 games, the same as you, because I trust them situationally late in games a lot more, because my question is how they're able to contain LeBron and Luka together. I look at the offense of the Lakers, and I do believe that Minnesota can match up with LeBron if they put Jaden McDaniels on him. I think they can contain Austin Reeves to an extent, but they don't have someone who can guard Luka Doncic. And I think when you look at that comparatively to the Timberwolves, I'm pretty confident LeBron can contain Julius Randle. Will he have a better series than what he was providing with the Knicks? For sure, because he seemed to really grow into more of this secondary role as a decision maker that is spraying out looks to open like 3-point shooters. That Minnesota has a lot of them. But it comes back to, am I going to lean on LeBron as a connector to Luka Doncic, or Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle? And when I look at that late in the game, in those fourth quarters, I can't go against this Lakers team that last year had the engineer of that team was Luka, who basically completely ripped apart Jaden McDaniels in that defense. And I feel like physically it's a lot like Mikal Bridges in Phoenix, where guys that have the length and the size but don't have the power are not going to be able to contain Luka. And I feel like for Minnesota, you can have Ant guard Luka in stretches, but not for half a game. And that's going to be really the biggest question to me, how they're able to neutralize those two guys. And I don't think that they quite can. The other thing, too, is that I think J.J. Redick's the better coach in this matchup. And I look at the Lakers' role players. I think the other thing they're going to do, which is going to give Minnesota troubles, and this is where it comes down to more of a matchup-dependent series for me than who's the better team. What they're going to do is play a lot of DFS and Gabe Vincent, have 5 shooters on the floor, and force Rudy Gobert to make a decision. You're either going to try to neutralize these drives, or you're going to have to be constantly in scramble drills, rotating to the corner. And I think that's going to take away the pain of what Rudy has done so well.
That's how the Clippers beat Utah.
And that's exactly what the Mavericks did last year, and that's how they won 5 games as well. So I think that's going to be a big question, because DFS has been really good for the Lakers, been shooting well. I think they have enough shooters in their starting lineup. And I think Gabe Vincent can have a good series as well. I'm seeing Drew's Charis and that to sing his praises a little bit. He's been playing better in the second half of Luka.
Oh,
so there's definitely a chemistry and a simplification of your role, and you're playing with him. And I think it alleviates the pressure off of all of those roles.
Yeah, I think for me, there's just too many questions about Minnesota. I like the stat, Joel. Right after those 18 games, they've been one of the best teams in basketball. I feel like you can, segment the season a lot of different ways to make that argument for a lot of different teams. But when I look at Minnesota, I know I'm getting from Ant. I feel very confident. Ant has shown last year that he is a playoff riser. He is someone that, when it comes down to it, he could be the best player in the series, right? He went toe-to-toe with KD and outplayed him. So I got really no questions about Anthony Edwards. It's just the rest of this Minnesota team, I still question, right? Like, what does Julius Randle look like in a playoff setting? I know he's looked great over these last few months, right? Especially since he's come back from injury. He even had those comments, remember, I talked about, like, when I was on the bench, I was able to see where I fit in this offense, as opposed to when I was playing every day and I was just trying to get my buckets and just trying to get to it. So I think his role has changed a bit, and he's he's accepted that role, and overall they become a better team because of it. But what does it look like in the playoffs? What does it look like when J.J. Redick has a few days a week to be able to game plan against this Minnesota team and be able to pick out their weaknesses, Julius Randle being included there? Some of the other guys on that team, like Jaden McDaniels, has had some moments this season, has had some stretches where he's been great. But what's he going to look like in this playoff series with the more expanded role offensive that we've seen this season? And then Rudy Gobert I go back and forth with, because this is a series that, even though Rudy, like you mentioned, Joel, gets a bad rep sometimes, especially going against some other small ball lineups, he's still one of the best defenders in basketball. He's one of the best rim protectors in basketball. And when Jackson Hayes is out there, I think he's going to be fantastic, right? He's going to have the opportunity to be out there and match those minutes with Jackson Hayes and be able to dominate on the boards and be able to get some lobs and finish around the rim. But when the Lakers do go small, like they've done basically the entire time or majority of the time that Luka's been there, when they're playing, 5 out, what is Rudy Gobert's role in this situation and in this series? Because on one hand, you want to have him out there when you're going up against LeBron, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves, guys that can get to the paint. You want him to be able to protect the rim compared to a guy, like Naz Reid, for an example. But you're also taking away from some of his strengths when the Lakers are putting 5 shooters out there, right? Yeah. And you have guys in the corners, like you guys already mentioned. We saw that a lot last year in the Dallas and Timberwolves series, which is why it ended so quickly. But really, I think the Lakers has shown us this year, and not even them playing at their best version of basketball, that when they're on and they're healthy, they've proven to be one of the best teams, right? When they've had Luka Doncic, who hasn't, I don't even think, played his best basketball, right? He's had games here and there where it's like, oh, Luka just put up 25, 7 and 5 at halftime. Yeah. He's back, and then he has those moments where he hasn't played up to his standards. But I think getting a few days off is going to be huge for him. Yeah. LeBron James as well, right? He re-aggravated his groin in the last few games of the season, so I'm assuming he's going to be healthy, but I don't know if he's going to be like completely 100%. Getting these few days off, I think, really favors this Lakers team that's a bit older, and especially some guys that have dealt with injuries like Luka and LeBron James. There's some areas that I think the Timberwolves can take advantage of the Lakers, but overall, I just have more questions about what am I going to get the Wolves game in and game out. I got the Lakers winning this in 6. Like I said, I'd be more surprised Timberwolves won this series compared to the Lakers just took this home in 5, because they got so many guys that go out there and just beat you one-on-one. Like, on paper, Wolves got good defenders, right? Like, if you're just going on paper, Ant-Man, Nikhil, Jaden McDaniels, your guy Clark, Rudy Gobert, they got so many guys that can guard, but it depends on the matchup, right? When you're going up against these dudes who are 6'6" to 6'8", and guys like LeBron James and Luka Doncic, those aren't the type of defenders that are going to thrive against LeBron James and Luka, because they're too big and they're too strong. We saw that last season. So look at the other end, the Timberwolves, or excuse me, the Lakers. I think they're going to struggle guard Minnesota in some aspects, right? I don't think they got a guy that can guard Anthony Edwards, but then I look at the rest of the team, I'm like, all right, Anthony Edwards, go crazy. Now what? Like, if Julius Randle goes out there and averages 25, you tip your cap, because Julius Randle has not shown to be able to do that in the playoffs. If Jaden McDaniels goes out there and shoots 40% from 3 from the series, you tip your cap and you're cool with that. And they have other guys maybe you're more reliable on, like a Naz Reid, for an example. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think the Lakers are the better team. They're the 2 best players in the series. I agree with you. I think they got the better head coach. They got home court advantage. Got the Lakers.
Oh, Lakers in 5, man.
Drew also has the Lakers in 5.
As straightforward as it sounds, as straightforward as it sounds, I cannot envision Anthony Edwards outdoing Luka and LeBron, because you think about what Luka's went through. You think about what Luka's experienced the last 4 months. Not only was he traded, but he was disrespected. His name was tarnished when he was traded from the Mavs unceremoniously. This is going to be the most disciplined and dedicated, and I think motivated version of Luka Doncic we'll ever see. I mean, the way that they treated him on his way out was pretty disgusting, to be quite honest with you guys. I know sometimes we joke about it as like fans, but like the Mavericks organization took it to a point where they basically bet on Luka, said, we're going to bet against you, both physically and as a leader. And I think that is something which, as an elite athlete, that's going to wire you in a certain way to where I cannot see him.
Some of those comments.